My name is Rita Isbell, and I'm the oldest sister of Errol Lindsay. Whatever your name is, Satan. I'm mad. This is how you act when you are out of control. I don't want to ever see my mother have to go through this again. Never, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, I hate you, mother. I hate you. This is out of control. Don't me, Jeffrey. I kill you. Look at me, mother. I can kill you.
Punch him, Ray, fast.
I can kill you. You don't have to.
Welcome to another episode of J Inclusive. Please share, like, comment, subscribe, and set your notifications on so you are alerted every time I upload. In recent years, we as a society seem to be more trusting now than ever. We use apps such as Grindr, Jacked, and more to hook up with strangers, sometimes linking up with them within hours of meeting online. One case that touches me to this day is the murder of Michael Sandy, who in 2005 was lured to his death by a group of white men after meeting one of them online in an AOL chat room. At the time I was 18, had just come out, and was using those same chat rooms to meet men.
You've got mail.
Brian Anderson, who in 2019 was murdered by a man who used gay dating apps to purposefully target gay men.
Tonight, his friends are speaking out about this senseless tragedy that's left them heartbroken.
7 Action News reporter Rudy Harper is live at Detroit Police Headquarters. And Rudy, have police said what's led up to this shooting?
Well, homicide detectives are still in the early stages of this investigation. Friends of this 31-year-old are in shock. They're heartbroken. They can't imagine why someone would murder this aspiring minister. It's a video of Brian Anderson and friends en route to a young adult ministry conference out of town. Shelby Jackson captured this moment.
They took away our joy.
Jackson considered Anderson a brother, although the two weren't blood related. They talk often, but she did not know it would be the last time moments before tragedy struck.
He had such a loving spirit.
Police say the 31-year-old was shot and killed Saturday on I-94 in Connor around 4:15 a.m. They say they found Anderson dead inside a black Ford Edge that crashed over a side ramp. He was in the vehicle with a friend who was also shot but survived.
Uncle. He called me at church, he called me Pastor Jackson, but outside of church, he called me Uncle.
Pastor Jackson of Steadfast Baptist Church says Anderson was a devout Christian who aspired to be an ordained minister.
He didn't bother anybody, didn't pick any fights, didn't get in any trouble in that way. So it was something it's hard to process why this would happen to him.
Friends say Anderson had a heart for the poor and mentored young people in the church. His pastor says he was a change agent whose life was taken too soon.
It's not only the impact he would have made in their lives, but the impact, the ripple effect. And so all that's been erased by Brian being taken away.
Brian knew no stranger, and he wasn't one to brag, I did this for them. He did it out of the kindness of his heart.
Derek Patterson, who used Grindr to rob men. Demarion DeGreat, who used gay hookup apps to arrange 3 separate meetings with men in Texas. Or Devin Robinson, who was convicted of killing 20-year-old Timothy Blanchard, along with 21-year-old Alunte Davis and 20-year-old trans woman Paris Cameron in 2019.
Just got word of this in the past hour that 3 people have been shot and killed. This is at a home on Warren near the Southfield Freeway on Detroit's west side. Nick Monticelli just arriving to the scene. Nick, have you been able to talk to investigators and get a handle on what may have happened here?
We have, yes. So this is on Detroit's far west side, Rhonda, almost in Dearborn. I'll get out of the way. You can see kind of what's going on here. So this home that is surrounded by crime tape, this is where the shooting occurred. And as you mentioned, 3 people are dead. 2 of the victims are inside of the home. The third one is on the driveway. Now, this is about as active as a crime scene can be. The evidence technicians just showed up about a minute ago. Some family members and friends have just showed up. They're off to the side. We're going to give them their privacy here. They're just finding out that their loved ones have passed away in this. Now, I talked to the sergeant here on scene, and he said there are signs of forced entry, meaning somebody broke into the home. He said they found some evidence that whoever the suspect is broke in through the basement. There was a screen busted out, and there were some signs, again, that he got in that way, walked inside, and then shot 2 people, 2 males, while they were sleeping. One was sleeping on the couch, another one sleeping in the chair. They were shot while they were sleeping. The third one, obviously, shot outside. That one was awake because he was outside. Now, they don't know who the suspect is. However, the sergeant did tell me that this home is a known problem. It's a known drug house here in this neighborhood. They are here all the time for these types of situations. Obviously not as bad as murder, but they have had several calls out here. So here's some video from the scene. Again, all this happening at about 5:30, maybe just a little earlier, so a little more than an hour ago. And as I mentioned, this is a very active crime scene. There are a lot of people here, but the actual scene itself, the area that the technicians have to look in, is relatively small because there's not too much to go through. Not many casings because only a couple shots were fired, although neighbors who we've talked to already said they heard the shots. They didn't see anybody running away, though. So that's, of course, is going to be the main priority now, is finding out who did this.
What's alarming is a predator like Jeffrey Dahmer would be able to victimize way more people in 2025. Known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, Dahmer was an American serial killer and offender who murdered and dismembered 17 males between 1978 and 1991, majority of them being black men. In a twist of fate, back in 1994, Dahmer, who was serving 16 life sentences, was beaten to death by Christopher Scarver, a fellow inmate at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. The case still shocks and intrigues many and has been the focus of over 6 movies, including 2022's Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, which has since passed 1 billion hours viewed on Netflix. Despite the popularity of these films, one of the critiques is that they focus too much on Dahmer and not enough on the victims who suffered at his hands. In this video, we will focus on the young black men whose futures were stolen by this deranged man and hear from some of their family members whose lives were destroyed by Dahmer. 24-year-old Anthony Sears managed a Baker Square in Milwaukee and was planning to celebrate his recent promotion to manager with his family over Easter dinner, but he never showed. He aspired to be a model and was saving money to leave Milwaukee. His mother, Marilyn, said he loved having his photo taken and would often run off with friends for days at a time, so he wasn't reported missing until 4 weeks had gone by. He never showed up, so I figured he just went out to celebrate with his friends. A few days later, I called and just got his answering machine. She said Anthony had said he wanted to get married to his girlfriend as soon as he had enough money. So what happened? Well, Anthony and Dahmer met outside of a bar in Milwaukee. Dahmer, motivated by fears that his apartment was being watched by police, brought Anthony to his grandmother's home. Dahmer drugged and strangled him. Anthony was the first victim of Dahmer that Dahmer kept trophies of. Dahmer kept Anthony's head and his genitalia in a wooden box, and for a period of time, Dahmer kept the wooden box in his locker at work.
Sears, I'm the mother of Anthony Lee Sears, and I just wanted to know, just why, why would it be my son, I just want to thank E. Michael McCann for the good job he did. Well, you did a good job too, but I'm glad McCann won it. And I want to thank the jury, and I want to thank you, Judge. And just keep this man off the street, please.
"33-year-old Ricky Beeks, who had a 10-year-old daughter living in Rockford, Illinois, often went by the alias Raymond Smith. He had been living with his half-sister, who took him in after he'd been released from prison. Little is known about him, but Raymond was a sex worker. Dahmer, who had just been released from prison for second-degree sexual assault, had moved out of his grandmother's house into a new apartment within 1 week. On May 20th, 1990, Dahmer met Raymond and lured him to his apartment. He offered Raymond $50 in exchange for sex, and once inside the property, he spiked Raymond's drink with sleeping tablets. It is reported the cause of death was strangulation, and afterwards Dahmer performed sex acts on Raymond's lifeless body. According to police reports, the victim's corpse was also dismembered and decapitated, as Dahmer wanted to paint the skull gray. Edward Smith was Jeffrey Dahmer's 7th victim, and he killed the 28-year-old only 2 weeks after his previous murder. Edward was known as the Sheik by his friends because he often wore a headscarf. He was an aspiring model from Milwaukee with a loving family. Edward's sister Carolyn became a prominent figure in the trial, and his brother J.W. read out statements in court from their family.
Let me tell you briefly about Edward Warren Smith on a more personal level. Ed was raised in a Christian home in Brookfield, where he learned how to be a loving, trusting, respectful human being. Eddie inherited all the blessings that a family structure had to offer. The greatest of these blessings was love.
On the evening of June 14, 1990, Edward was last seen leaving the Phoenix bar in Milwaukee. It's believed Edward met Dahmer at the bar, and the two went back to Dahmer's apartment. Friends later told police they had seen the two together at various clubs in Milwaukee before Dahmer killed him. The 28-year-old's body was never found, but authorities confirmed Dahmer had murdered him after they found photographs of Edward in Dahmer's home. Dahmer also confessed. Later, he told authorities he felt terrible about murdering Edward because he couldn't retain any part of his body. In an interview after his conviction, Dahmer explained he liked to keep his victims' body parts. He said, "If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, I at least felt that I could keep their skeleton." Ernest Miller was about to start classes at an arts college in Chicago and hoped to become a professional dancer. He was a talented dancer, said his aunt, Vivian Miller. He was singing and performing when he was younger and used to sing at church. Ernest graduated from Milwaukee High School of the Arts at West Division, then worked for a few years before going to college.
David spent more than 30 years in the classroom, 15 of them at the Milwaukee High School of the Arts, where 3 of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims went to school. He did not want his face shown, but felt compelled to tell us about the young men taken too soon.
What was unique about Milwaukee High School of the Arts was the tremendous diversity of the school that just happened naturally. And the students came from all walks of life.
David knew Anthony Sears, Curtis Strotter, and Ernest Miller. He says Miller had a bright future.
He was such a gifted dancer, an amazing vocalist, and he just started putting his foot in the pool of acting. And so he was truly a triple threat. So that year, his senior year, he didn't find out until the end of the year that he got accepted into Roosevelt in Chicago. That was the last I heard of Ernest. And then that summer, I saw him on the news as one of the victims. And
he came to Milwaukee to visit relatives. Ernest met Dahmer outside a bookstore on North 27th Street during Labor Day weekend of 1990. Dahmer offered Ernest money to return to his apartment, which he accepted. After engaging in sexual activity, Dahmer drugged and killed Ernest by cutting his throat.
Jeffrey Dahmer, just a couple of things about Ernest that you didn't take the time out to find out. First, Ernest was a dancer. This came naturally, and this was his dream, all through his short-lived life. Second, he had a family that loved him. He has a niece now that's 4 months old that he'll never get to hold or play or just watch grow up. He'll have to look from heaven now. I hope that you live a long life so that one day you can appreciate life. On that day, you would know my family's suffering.
23-year-old David Thomas was father to 2-year-old Cortia Beanland when he disappeared. His ex-girlfriend, Chandra Beanland, said David was a fun-loving guy with a penchant for hustling. In 1996, Chandra said, "I try to go on with my life, but I can't let it go. Every man I meet, I think of David. He's in my dreams." It wasn't unusual for David to be gone for weeks at a time, but he was reported missing by Chandra that month. Dahmer killed David in September 1990 by drugging and killing him. He then disposed of his body and intentionally did not keep any parts. Dahmer claimed to have killed Thomas because he was not his type. David's body was never recovered, and it is believed that Dahmer destroyed the remains.
My name is Inez Thomas, and I'm the mother of David Thomas. First, I want to let you know, Jeffrey Dahmer, about the pain that you caused my family. That was my baby boy that you took away from me. His sisters and brothers, and they can't hardly deal with this. He have a little child, Cortia, that'll never see her father again. She was only 2. And now she sits in the window and she asked her mother, "Mommy, where is Day-Day?" She called him Day-Day. "Where is Day-Day? When is Day-Day coming?" And I think that's a sad thing for a child to see, to go through all her life and not know her father. Another thing I want to talk about is the feelings. You know, I don't understand how a person could really harm a person and to say that, well, I did this because he wasn't my type. Well, if everybody go around doing something to somebody because it's their type, this would be a sad world today.
Curtis Strotter was just 17 at the time of his death and living with his grandmother. Those who knew Curtis described him as a young and vivacious person who had the entire world at his disposal. After losing his job as a nursing assistant, he had plans to become a model and finish college. On February 18, 1991, Curtis was waiting at a bus stop outside Marquette University when he was approached by Dahmer. At this time, unbeknown to Curtis, Dahmer had murdered 9 males and dismembered their bodies. Curtis was allegedly lured to Dahmer's apartment on the pretense of money in exchange for posing for photographs. Once arriving at Dahmer's apartment, Curtis was drugged, restrained, and murdered. Dahmer then dismembered his body while capturing each step on camera. Once he had photographed his victim's body, Dahmer kept the Polaroid pictures in his bedside table as a chilling memento.
My name is Dorothy Strader. I'm Curtis Strader's mother. I didn't have nothing prepared to say. It's just a few things that I would like to say. You took my 17-year-old son away from me. I'll never get a chance to tell him that I loved him. I'd have a chance to tell him that I loved him the last time I saw him, which will be a year tomorrow. You took my daughter's only brother away from her. She'll never have a chance to sing and dance with him again. You took my mother's oldest grandchild from her, and for that I can never forgive you. I hope you can deal with what you've done. I'm trying hard to. You almost destroyed me, but I refuse to let you destroy me. I will carry on.
Thank you, ma'am.
Errol Lindsay lived in Milwaukee and was just 19 years old at the time of his murder. Those who knew him described him as an upstanding and generous individual who loved helping others and took pleasure in making new friends. Errol was known to be a young man who was quite popular among his friendship group, and he was very close to his family, especially his mother and sister. Reports claim that on the day of his murder, Errol was sent out on an errand to get a key cut. And while on his way, Dahmer lured Errol back to his apartment. It was there he drugged Errol, but kept him alive to perform a gruesome experiment. Dahmer drilled a hole in his head and poured hydrochloric acid into it. Hoping to render the victim in a vegetative state, he then murdered the 19-year-old. Later, he decapitated Errol and disposed of some of his body. In a 2022 interview, after the release of the most recent Netflix Dahmer movie, Rita Isbell said, "It was here we go again. It did affect me today just as much as it did yesterday, but as time went by and I'm older, I can deal with it better. Where I can talk about it, be rational about it. My emotions are not so involved in it like it was back then." When recalling the trial, Rita said most of the rules put in place in the courtroom were directed toward the victims' families. She said they couldn't fall asleep, couldn't show emotion, and that seats were first come, first served, and the judge was dozing off. I was angry already. It was a lot of stuff going on in the courtroom that I disagreed with. Rita said as she listened to the other impact statements, everyone else was humble and nice to Dahmer when they approached him. I was like, to hell with this. This monster just butchered up our family members. No way was I going to get up there and be talking nice to him. Rita recalled saying she didn't want her mother to ever have to experience the trial again, but the show makes her relive it. Nobody ever asked me how my mother is doing. My mother actually thinks my brother Errol is at work to this day. The 31-year-old's life and death was depicted in the Netflix drama series Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Anthony permanently lost his hearing as an infant because of the side effects of medicines given to him as a child. An aspiring model, Anthony moved to Madison for college and to pursue a modeling career in the fashion industry. According to the Netflix biopic, he struggled to secure a job due to his hearing loss, eventually winding up at a retail store where he communicated with his manager through sign language. Anthony also identified as gay and was a regular at gay bars. Dahmer and Hughes met at the 219 Club in Milwaukee. Anthony asked 3 friends to give him a ride to Dahmer's apartment. He and Dahmer sat in the back seat writing notes to each other. Anthony wanted to bring the whole group in for drinks at Dahmer's apartment, but Dahmer indicated that he was inviting Anthony by himself. Anthony then relayed this information to his friends in sign language, and they understood the situation well enough. That night, Dahmer murdered Hughes. It is believed that Dahmer had proposed a nude photo shoot by a written note. Once inside, Dahmer drugged him and then strangled him to death. His body was reportedly dissolved in acid, with Dahmer retaining his skull.
Hughes, and I'm Tony Anthony Hughes' mother. First of all, thank God, and to give thanks to the judge and to Mr. McCann for the verdict that came in. I would like to say to Jeffrey Dahmer that he don't know the pain, the hurt, the loss, and the mental state that he had put our family in. But I'd just like to read a poem that a good friend of my son wrote. Tony thought you was his friend. He knew you. Why am I a victim in your cruel and rueful world? Although I can't communicate with a loud voice, Listen to me anyway. Try to have mercy on my moans. Look at the tears roll down my face. See that each one is a cry for help. And realize my sign are showing you that I want to live. Tell me just what is it that I've done to you to make you such a monster, to make you such a maniac, to make you such a devil. My God, who are you? What are you? You have never shown me this side of you. I put my trust in you. I thought you were my friend until the end, yet I didn't know you as well as I thought. I never felt the end would be this way. Is there anyone that can help me? Mom, dad, sister, brother, someone, please help me. What's happening to me? Everything seems to be slowing down. I'm confused, I'm drowsy. My coordination have been contaminated. My friend, what is it that you've given me? What is it that you're doing to me? I'm helpless. Is that a thrill to you to know that I can't fight you back? And that the hardest struggle in my life is fighting to keep my eyes open with the hope of seeing the dawn of a new day. Yet you have total control over me. My life is in the hands of once a friend, but now a total stranger who have become my worst nightmare. But one day, I know you'll get caught. You think you're smooth at what you're doing. Remember, whatever's done in the dark, it will come to the light, and the whole world will know just how ugly a person you really are. Mom, I'm gone. My hope, my breath, my want to live have been taken away from me unwillingly and emotionally. I know that there's a dragon piercing your heart day and night because of this, but yet I'm not far away. When you get cold, I wrap my arms around you to warm you. If you get sad, I'll softly grab your heart and cheer you up. If you smile, I'll smile right along with you. And when you're happy, I'll know it because you're thinking that 2 fingers and 1 thumb means I love you in sign language. My son was deaf. When you cry, take 1 teardrop and place it outside your window ledge. And when I pass by, I'll exchange it for one of mine. 2 fingers and 1 thumb, Mom.
20-year-old Matt Turner was born in Flint, Michigan. Those who knew him described him as a good kid, bright and articulate. Matt, who occasionally used the name Donald Montrell, was living in Chicago in a halfway house after running away from home just a year before his death. The runaway had high aspirations of becoming a model, but his future was tragically taken away from him when he met Dahmer. In 1991, Dahmer traveled to Chicago to attend a gay pride parade. It was there he met Matt, who was waiting at a bus station. Dahmer lured the young man back to Wisconsin and invited him into his apartment. It was there he drugged, strangled, and dismembered Matt's body. Dahmer then preserved some of Matt's head in his freezer, with his torso in an acid-filled 57-gallon drum. 23-year-old Oliver Lacey was the youngest of 3 sons. He had a 2-year-old child named Emmanuel and was engaged to be married. Originally from Oak Park, Illinois, Oliver ran track at River Forest High School. His mother, Catherine Lacey, described her son as very outspoken. The aspiring bodybuilder wore a cross around his neck that belonged to his late father, and he had moved to Milwaukee from Chicago within months of his father's death. He went missing on July 12, 1991, and although he wasn't Dahmer's first victim, he was the first to be positively identified. Dahmer met Oliver on the street, introduced himself as a photographer, and invited him to his apartment for a paid photo shoot. At the apartment, it's believed Dahmer offered him a drink laced with illegal substances, leaving him virtually unable to move. Dahmer had to go to work, but felt he couldn't leave Oliver, so he skipped work, got fired, and then strangled Oliver to death. After he was dead, Dahmer had sex with his body before keeping Oliver's heart in his freezer to eat later. He also kept the victim's head in his freezer. FBI documents show Oliver was identified by severed hands the Milwaukee Police Department recovered from Dahmer's apartment. Dahmer also gave officers the identification he had kept from Lacey.
A gruesome story leads off our newscast.
Milwaukee police found body parts in a North Side apartment, and now they wonder if they've uncovered some kind of death factory. This was the scene earlier this morning. Police hired a private contractor to haul a refrigerator and a tank of acid out of the apartment in the 900 block of North 25th Street. Because of the acid, some neighbors were evacuated briefly. Police found parts of bodies, leading them to believe the man they arrested is a mass murderer.
From our investigation, we feel that this individual strongly is involved in other homicides We have taken evidence out of the building by the medical examiner to be examined.
What brought the police here in the first place?
The officers were stopped by an individual who claimed he was in the apartment and became engaged in a dispute with the owner of the apartment and left the apartment and called the officers.
A 31-year-old man was arrested at that apartment. The Milwaukee County Medical Examiner will release more details on this case this morning at 10 o'clock. But a police lieutenant tells us he suspects this case could get national attention and could be the most gruesome case we have seen in Milwaukee in years.
Tracy Edwards is a 24-year-old restaurant worker with dreams of going back to school. He has 6 children, now living in Tupelo, Mississippi, hopes one day to reunite the family. Last Monday night, though, those hopes and dreams took a back seat to his fight for survival.
Like, I knew that it was a life and death situation then, right? Yeah, it was me against him.
It had begun Monday afternoon here at the Grand Avenue Mall downtown. Edwards and some friends ran into Dahmer, who they knew by sight from the neighborhood. They started talking, agreed to go out looking for girls that evening. On the way home, Edwards stopped at Dahmer's apartment for a beer.
Yep, so I thought about it. I said, yeah, he's pretty cool. I guess it's all right to go have a beer, because I thought he was an average guy. I said, you know, what's wrong with it, you know? Guys hang out together, go have a beer at each other's crib all the time, you know? It seemed normal to me, you know?
Barely 15 minutes after they'd arrived at the apartment on West 25th Street, Edwards says good Dahmer suddenly became bad Dahmer, and his 5-hour ordeal began.
Well, I had my head turned like this, looking at the fish tank, you know. And before I knew it, he threw a handcuff on me and had a big blade up under my heart, you know, telling me if I don't do what he says, he's gonna kill me, you know. So that kind of freaked me out, right?
At the time you made your break, what happened?
He took his mind and the blade off me for a moment, you know. And then I knew then it was my time to make my move, you know. Yep. That if I didn't take my chance then, I would never get out this place, you know.
So what did you do?
Yep. I kind of like, I don't know if, I hit him. I'm just going to put it that way.
With Dahmer now in custody, Edwards has had time to reflect on the time he spent in that house of death.
And luckily, I got the door open just like that. God was with me. It was time for this guy to be stopped, you know. That's all I could say, because everything, I could turn the knob and everything in one motion, you know. Yep, everything worked out just right, you know. Yeah, that was it.
Jay Levine for...
Tracy testified against Dahmer in court, playing a crucial role in his conviction. Despite his role in bringing Dahmer to justice, the experience had a lasting and negative impact on Tracy's life, leading to homelessness and frequent moves between shelters. His lawyer stated that the events had destroyed his life, and Tracy was never able to put the pieces of his life back together again. Tracy faced legal troubles of his own in the years that followed.
The man who led police to Jeffrey Dahmer was back in court this past week. 52-year-old Tracy Edwards faces charges of reckless endangerment in the death of a man named Johnny Jordan. Jordan drowned back in July after being thrown off a bridge into the Milwaukee River. It was Edwards who escaped from Dahmer in 1991 and led police back to the cannibalistic serial killer. Edwards maintains his innocence in the current case. His trial is set to start in January.
The man known as Jeffrey Dahmer's last victim appeared in court today, charged with recklessly endangering safety. 12 News' Abe Lebekin joins us live from the Milwaukee Criminal Justice Facility with the exclusive video.
Jason, 20 years ago, Tracy Edwards escaped Dahmer's apartment and led police to the serial killer. Today, Edwards was back in court, this time as the defendant.
Tracy Edwards and another man, Timothy Carr, are charged with recklessly endangering safety. Edwards' attorney asked that his client not have to appear in intake court today to avoid being shown on camera, but the court denied that request. A witness told police on Tuesday night, Edwards and Carr threw a third man into the river in downtown Milwaukee. That man, named Johnny Jordan, drowned. During the short court proceeding today, Edwards listened to the charge against him and spoke only to tell the judge he understood what was happening.
You understand you've been charged with recklessly endangering safety, first-degree party to a crime, and upon conviction of this offense, which is a Class F felony, you may be fined not more than $25,000 or in prison not more than 12 years and 6 months or both. Do you understand that charge and those penalties, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
He was eventually sentenced to 1.5 years in prison and 2 years of extended supervision for aiding a felon. The current whereabouts of Tracy Edwards are unknown. Many of Dahmer's victims were people of color and members of the LGBTQ community. Because Dahmer was white, he was able to manipulate a system designed to protect people like him and ignore people like them. The painful reality is that Black lives, and more specifically, Black queer lives, are still marginalized today. But over 40 years ago, they were treated as utterly disposable. Dahmer knew this. He targeted these men because he believed the media, the police and the justice system wouldn't care about their disappearances. And tragically, he was right.